Today we have with us retired Brigadier Rufus McNeil, OBE. Rufus spent 21 years in the Army, leading operations around the world, and now leads large-scale change management programs within the private sector. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Rufus.
My pleasure.
So, first of all, could you tell us a little more about your background and the work you're now doing with LetsLocalise?
Yeah, sure. So, I think you've touched on the highlights. I was in the military for quite a long time. I worked, I was principally in logistics, but I then worked in central government in Whitehall, an aide to a minister. So I spent a lot of time around sort of the political end of government, and on operations overseas. So I led troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I left the military about 7 years ago and went into the private sector, initially around defence, and then branched out, worked for DHL for about 4 years, ended up on their board in the UK, and then headed off on my own. And I now sort of work in change management consultancy, and I'm working with a number of sort of large businesses at the moment, including a couple of sort of FTSE 100 companies, delivering change programs and improvement programs. So that's my background.
Fabulous. And perhaps you could expand a little bit on the role you're now playing with LetsLocalise.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of met LetsLocalise through an organisation called the Change Society, which connects people up who work in transformational change, digital change. And I met Gaurav Garg through that, who's one of the founders of LetsLocalise. And we just got talking, really, and he'd asked for a little bit of advice, and I can't even remember what the issue was, but it was something relatively minor. And we just got talking about LetsLocalise, and I was fascinated by the concept. So I sort of offered to lend a hand, and I got drawn further and further in until I was asked to sort of join the executive team and help. So I guess, what do I do as part of that team? I bring some of that sort of business knowledge, really. So there's some very strong technical skills in the team, and I brought a bit of wider business knowledge and change, and how businesses can sort of help people, particularly if they're trying to do something new, which is what we're trying to do with LetsLocalise. So how you get people used to doing something new and working in a new way. So that's where I fit in, really.
The LetsLocalise model involves a whole ecosystem of users. So parents, teachers, alumni, individual experts, businesses, the list goes on. It strikes me that a significant part of the challenges facing LetsLocalise are to do with developing clear and transparent communication between these users. Could you talk to us a little about how LetsLocalise plans to facilitate this?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you work on the basis that any platform that is trying to connect people with a need, with people who can fulfill that need, that's the heart of a platform. Is it tends to have sort of two sides. The sort of fundamental communication is being able to get that need across clearly enough that people who can fulfill it understand what's required and can help. And so it's interesting that you talk about it as an ecosystem. Part of the key to making it work is to grow an ecosystem from what essentially starts out as a relatively small group. So we start with schools, and lots of schools are very eager to do this. So one side of that platform, those with the need, very easy to get sort of engaged, really, because they need the help, and this offers them something that they haven't seen before, and a way to structure asking for help. The challenge is then growing from that out into a successively wider group of people. So initially, there are people who know the school. There are parents. There are people who've worked with the school routinely. So that's your base. And what we aim to try and do is gradually expand out from that by using initially the parents and the school's existing methods of communication on social media to pique the interest of others, and from that grow into people who are in the local area are thought leaders, or might be sort of particularly loud voices in the community in terms of sort of sway and influence, and then out into local businesses who are interested in becoming a part of that sort of growing community, and continually outwards. And as it grows, it draws more and more people in, is the principle. The key bit of the communication in all of that, which is the question you asked, how do we do that? It's really by trying to tell stories. And in the case of a school, it's saying that the first story is that there is a need, that there's this desperate shortfall in funding, and that is independent. It's affecting local children. And so the first point is to get that message across that schools do need help. And interestingly, most people kind of instinctively get that. They've followed the news. They know that a lot of public services have been suffering in recent years, and schools are no exception. The next part is then to turn that into something tangible and say, okay, this school needs help, but what kind of help, and how is that something that you in a community, in a business in the community, could help with? So that's when what we try to do is to take an individual need of the school and turn that into a story. So, a school wants to do more with its kids in terms of fitness, and so they're looking to get additional sort of table tennis tables or basketball hoops. And what we're trying to do, and we're still working on this, to be honest, a work in progress, is to be able to find the best way of communicating out to people that is something they can genuinely help with, and that they'll see a benefit if they help, whether that's by putting some funding in to help, or whether it's by helping paint the gym, or whatever it might happen to be, that they can then see a group of children affected by that and having their experience of school improved by that. And normally that's about who's asking. It's about a very passionate teacher asking about it, or it's about the children in the school saying, we really need this, or it's about some advocate in the local community saying, my kids are at this school, or I know this school because I was an alumni there, and it needs help. And if you help us on this particular thing, these children will have a better experience from it. So all of it is about getting that big sense of need distilled down to something which an individual in the community can feel they could help with, and then see a benefit for somebody from. Because most people really get that, I mean, we all, I think, when we start to charitably contribute or lean into something, we do it because we can see some purpose behind it, and we think we can make a difference. And if you don't think you can make a difference, you don't really try. So that's the heart of it, really, is trying to get that big picture down to a small, local, tangible picture. And for that, it's about stories on social media. It's about making it simple enough that you can see what the help required is, and achievable enough. So one of the nice things we can do is we get lots of people together to contribute for, let's go back to the basketball hoop. If you contribute a fiver, but you can see somebody else doing it and somebody else doing it and somebody else doing it, you watch all of that community effort coming together, and on your sort of potentially relatively small contribution, you can see you've played a part in something much bigger. And once you've done it once and seen that work, we hope that will encourage you to do it again and again. So that's what we're trying to do. Hopefully that's not too long an answer.
No, that's a fascinating answer. Thank you so much. And it's very well covered my next point about the specifics of the outreach strategy for Let's Localise. That's
yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about outreach is that there are, we've done, there's some theories behind this, or we've done some theorising behind it. That there's a local aspect to that, and then there's a national aspect to it, which we hope to be able to grow to. And that is that, most people, individuals, they connect with a local school, or they connect with schools in their area because they feel, they can feel some connection with them. They can see them. They can see the kids going to and from the school. So, you can feel some connection to that. And therefore, the more people that are involved, the more likely you are in your local area to join in. So that's very local, and the effect is quite local. So you get to a point, frankly, where you're not influenced by somebody in another area joining that platform. You're only influenced by the people around you. Businesses, who we hope will play a really key role in this as well, are often influenced the other way around, particularly the larger businesses. Really, what they want to be able to do is help on a national scale or on a regional scale, and therefore what they're persuaded by is the bigger spread of the organisation, of the platform. The more places it's in, the more of their parts of the business can help in more ways in more places. So we've got a local sort of outreach effort going on, and as it grows, we know that will grow into a different kind of outreach about having a national impact for larger businesses.
So it's a tipping point that you're aiming towards.
Yeah, accepting the fact that always the success of the schools will be about being able to create a local effect as well. So, they'll run in parallel, really. We hope to be able to create a local effect where schools really connect with the people around their schools, and a national effect where businesses start to think, okay, I can have a significant effect for lots of children in lots of areas simply by engaging with one platform. That's where we hope to be. Rather, that takes away what should take away what many businesses find at the moment, which is they have to try and reach into all kinds of different places and organisations. if they want to have a national effect.
Right, brilliant. So Gaurav and Divya have spoken to us about the potential of developing Let's Localise into other sectors, such as healthcare, for example. Perhaps could you talk to us about some of your thoughts about how the Let's Localise model might be applicable to sectors beyond education?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's two aspects to this, I guess. The first one is that people want to help in a whole variety of ways. And schools is sort of one element of the public sector that needs help, but we know there are lots of others. Hospitals, care homes, for example. Lots of places that look after people in different forms are naturally places that draw a public desire to help and need that help. So if we go back to the model which says you've got a need over here and you've got people who want to help over here, essentially anything where that is true, Let's Localise should be able to help. I think the interesting aspect to it, though, becomes when you start to get what you described earlier, which is an ecosystem, which says, let's imagine we've built this model where we have lots of communities who've started to see the effect of helping a school, and they've realised the power of working together, and they've realised that there's a whole series of ways they can help. It might be money, it might be holding a paintbrush, it might be going and giving a talk about something they're passionate about and getting kids inspired. You've started to build this effect where people think, okay, I can help and I can use whatever skills I've got to help. So the community is operating together. Then what all you're doing is just adding another place to help in. So if it starts with schools and then you say, and you can also help care homes, you're expanding the ecosystem further. And you may draw in another group of people who never thought necessarily about helping children, but they did think about helping the aged. And if you then say, and actually there's a whole series of hospitals which need your help because there's lots of people who need sort of aftercare and support, and there are sort of mental health sort of support you can provide, then all you're doing again is adding another need into an ecosystem that is already gearing up to helping people. And hopefully the more successful it is and the more times community effort is deployed, the more enthusiasm there'll be for doing it again, because you start to see and get that reward from helping and seeing a difference in your local community. And we know what good communities look and feel like. You know when you're part of a community that cares. I think we've seen a lot of that in COVID-19. You suddenly see it when you see around you people leaning in and helping out, and it kind of encourages you to get off your seat and do the same, doesn't it? So what we want to do really is build ecosystems where that's starting to happen, and everybody thinks, I should be involved in this now. Clearly we're helping. Clearly people are being aided by the community, and I'm part of this community. I should be involved. So I think that's how it'll work. It won't be a series of one-off engagements with different kinds of organisation, with schools and then with hospitals and then with something else. We hope it'll all be one big collaborative effort with the community helping people who need help.
People, on the whole, I think, are looking for that opportunity to help, aren't they?
That's the principle we've based this on, is that, based on personal experience, based on surveys we've done, there are lots of people out there who want to help. What holds them back sometimes is they don't know where to help. They don't know how to start. Sometimes they're a bit shy about putting their sort of offer forward. And sometimes they don't think there's anything they can do, because quite often that kind of help revolves around money. Lots of people haven't got money to give. But that's not all, then that's not the only way you can support. You can give your time, you can give your knowledge, you can give your experience, you can give your enthusiasm. And that's what we're trying to tap into. And the more we can persuade people that all those other things are valuable, the more people we think will get offering to help, and the better the whole thing will be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rufus. I think we've got some really useful insights into Let's Localise. Of course, we can learn more about Let's Localise and your role with the venture by visiting the website, letslocalise.co.uk.
Can indeed.
And I think we'll end the recording there. All right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
So I'll go ahead and do that.